The Terrifying Reality of Corporate Surveillance by Oompaville. Link to the original video in the description. Dog, Flock has gotten out of hand, but it's not just Flock. This is something you guys have to remember. If a politician is putting forward a bill that's specifically anti-Flock, they're just obfuscating because there's like 12 other companies that do the same shit. It's not just Flock. They're just the most known. And B, they're probably paid by a rival company. They probably have a vested interest in a rival company, and that's why they're pushing it. Which is why stock trading should be illegal for congressmen. Flock, though, literally nobody wants this shit. Nobody wants this mass surveillance in our country. We've been making fun of China for years now, saying that about their mass surveillance and shit, and we're literally doing the same shit. We've had a social credit score forever. It's just a regular credit score where you have to go into crushing debt for your entire life. Otherwise, you can never buy anything. So, I mean, I think we're becoming more and more like, not only that, but now we've got the divide between rich and poor widening exponentially every day. America is becoming more and more like China every single day than we'd care to admit.
You drove past one of these this week. I'm not guessing, I'm telling you. There are around 120,000 of these cheeky little bastards in 49 different states. And at some point in the last 7 days, one of them most likely photographed your car.
Yes, and these are known for being taken advantage of by police officers who work in the system, who are literally... One lady got fired, not in any actual trouble. She just got fired because she scanned her ex's plates and searched them up 174 times in 1 month.
Of course, you live in Alaska, but we don't have anybody living in Alaska watching this channel. This demon read your plate. It logged the make, the model, the color of your car, the dents on your car, the scratches.
The thing is, nobody supports these. Not one actual civilian supports these, but it's very telling that all the politicians support them. Every politician wants to put these in your towns, especially the local politicians. I really, really think that it's time to bring back treason charges and make them extremely harsh.
Your Sour Boys bumper sticker, and it uploaded all of that information into a private company server in under a second.
They scan your bumper stickers and stuff to see what a potential threat you are, to see what kind of ideology you're putting on your bumper stickers. This shit has gotten so out of hand. There's multiple stories of the police showing up at someone's house or pulling their car over and drawing guns on them because they think they were involved in something because the technology is not even there. So, like, the technology is not even good enough to do it right, and it's misreading license plates and stuff because it's all tied in with AI, and AI hallucinates all the time.
Now, did you agree to that? Unless you were Mike Israetel, probably not. Mike Israetel, by the way, is Palantir's biggest fan, and he loves mass surveillance.
I wonder where he's from.
I believe he also said that AI was God. Anyways, did you agree to that? No, of course you didn't. Did you get the form in the mail? No, there's no little checkbox that you clicked. It isn't even a sneaky terms of service thing that some fucking evil corporation got you signed up for without you knowing. And also, you can't opt out of it. There's no opt out. You just can't drive near it if you don't want it to take pictures of you. The company that we're talking about today is Flock Safety. Lots of people have been talking about Flock Safety, and I've been talking about it for a long time. Privately, been talking about the police state, the surveillance state, for about 20 years now, since I was 10. I was the Alex Jones of my grade. That's why I dropped out of first grade to be homeschooled in Northern Virginia, Northwestern Virginia.
I was actually totally the Alex Jones of my grade too. Big shocker, right? The book is the conspiracy book was a conspiracy theorist back then.
Virginia, not Northeastern Virginia, not Nova, okay? I'm talking Gore, buddy. You ever been to fucking Gore? You ever take 50 West into West Virginia? God help you. Once again, the company that we're talking about today is Flock Safety. And the Flock cameras, the part of the business that you can actually see, the little gray box on the 8 to 12 foot pole that you've been driving past for a while now without...
Dude, it's crazy that it's actually illegal to cut these down, even though they're being illegally placed, and they literally break our amendments. They literally break our constitutional rights, and yet apparently cutting them down holds like giant prison sentences and stuff. It's actually insane, dude. That's ridiculous. I will say this with my whole ass. I 100% condone and support the removal of Flock cameras and all other kinds like it by any means necessary. And this is the thing about the right to bear arms. right? This ties into that whole argument. The right to bear arms was never meant for you to defend yourself versus your fellow man. It was meant to stop yourself from succumbing to tyranny. So if they literally built it into where we're supposed to be able to stop ourselves from succumbing to tyranny, why would we submit to this tyranny? Because our literal job as civilians is to stop the government from overreaching. That's our actual job as civilians, where it comes to the government. And yet we have failed at this time and time again. It's actually there's a lot of problems here.
Without realizing those cameras are not actually the product. The flock cameras are not the product. The data is the product. And the data is you! I just pointed salaciously at the camera, implying heavily that you guys are the product. Do you like that? Did you like that I did that? That I interacted with you?
I love
this. This is one of those unfortunate topics where the more you read on a subject, the worse it gets, and the deeper and deeper and deeper that the rabbit hole goes, until a point where you're like, all right.
Well, and it's a nasty, smelly rabbit hole.
Well, Skynet, I guess, I generally don't like to inform my reality with Hollywood bullshit and movies, but it's starting to really feel like all that shit's coming true. Now, you probably don't even need to be an engineer or a technologist.
This is the thing about conspiracy theorists and all that shit. Now, we're just boring, dude. Try to come up with a conspiracy theory, there's like a 50-50 chance that it's just true. You could say any random shit, and I would probably be like, yeah, there's a good 50-50 that shit's true, dude. The moon is secretly made of diamonds, and there's a group of gorillas up there that are mining it for the aliens to control the government. And I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? I mean, there's a 50-50 at this point. Like,
it's starting to feel like all that shit's coming true. Now, you probably don't even need to be.
It's telling, though, that the CIA came up with the term conspiracy theorist to try to debunk people, to try to make people seem crazy for things like MK Ultra.
An engineer or a
technologist
or need to have a degree in law to see how atrocious that this could get for the Fourth Amendment. Do you remember the Fourth Amendment?
Yes, I do.
Do you know what that is? I bet you don't. I bet you don't even know what that is. You better start learning about all of our amendments in the Constitution and the idea.
Conspiracy theory again. There's a reason why they don't teach. Cursive in school anymore, and it's specifically so that you cannot read these old documents
that America was built on, or allegedly was built on, because I'm getting homesick. I'm getting homesick for what I thought America was growing up.
True. I feel like I'm very patriotic for a country that hasn't existed for 50 years.
Mass surveillance, and specifically Flock, is everywhere right now. Mainstream media, tech channels on YouTube, even John Oliver covered it in the last month. But this company, Flock, has been around since 2017, and people have been ringing the alarm bells about it since it hit.
I'm sorry, John Oliver's just an annoying little cuck. For real.
The market. The ACLU released a memo about it in 2022 that reads like a prophecy, as if an Elder Scroll was written by Alex Jones. It's fucking crazy. How does a company that marketed itself as helping cops solve Grand Theft Auto cases end up being one of the largest unregulated data aggregators in the country? How the fuck does that happen? All right, I just burped while talking and didn't even miss a beat. And how does it get to the point where the CEO...
Some people can burp better than others.
Himself, the guy whose job is to make the company look good and say, it's fine, just turn around and look that way at the flowers or whatever. He even goes on record admitting that the product is being abused. That's a nightmare. So yeah, that's what this video is about, is the abuse, okay? But to get that, we gotta understand what the camera...
And the truth is, you gotta think about this. This is never where it stops. It always starts somewhere like here. You know, like with the income tax. America literally fought a war over not being taxed. But then the Civil War happened, and the government came out and said, well, for the Civil War, we need to tax you just a little bit of your income just for the Civil War, and then we'll stop. But then people got used to it, and they decided, you know what, we're just going to keep doing this. And you know what, we're going to tax other things too. Property, yep, that's getting taxed. Oh, this, that, another thing, they're all getting taxed. Now at the point where it's paying like 47% of our tech in taxes. Probably even more, realistically. So... these things don't just happen all at once. They happen over time. They get you to accept the Flock cameras, and then they move on to the next thing. Now you're not allowed to criticize the government. Now, now you're getting arrested for something you didn't even do because your political opponent used AI to slap your face on some surveillance camera.
actually is, and it is dumber than maybe you may expect it to be, but that is extremely important. A flock camera is not some fucking insane CIA mind-reading device. It is a phone. Genuinely. It has an LTE modem in it, which is the same thing your cell phone has that connects it to a cell tower. It has a camera, it has a little storage drive right there in the housing, and if you knock one off of a tower, you can hold it up and make calls on it.
What?
Not really.
It's
a free phone.
He got me there, damn it.
It's like the Obama.
Dude, I had a buddy who used to say shit like that. He would come up to me and be like, hey man, did you know that the laser sound from Star Wars is actually just an F1 car really sped up? And I'm like, really? And he goes, no, dude, what the fuck?
Of a tower, you can hold it up and make calls on it. Not really. It's a free phone. It's like the Obama phone, but new.
But ultimately, the hardware of these different cameras is not that different from your phone. It's got a camera.
Obama did endless damage to this country. And not only that, his wife, his wife did even more damage to the country, dude. Fucking good old Big Mike over there is the reason that all all school lunches suck now, because we were actually at a point for a while when I was in school that I didn't even understand the whole school lunch sucks. I didn't understand the joke because my school lunches were always good. And then she came in and started fucking stuff up with her healthy bullshit, and they took out all the sodas, they took out all the flavoring, and they just started serving you gruel basically. And God, dude, I'm so sick of people fucking important people and then thinking now their opinion matters. And I'm even more sick of people indulging those freaks. Like, just because you fucked the president doesn't mean that you have anything of value to say. Go away. Stop doing shit. You're the first lady. You're not the president. Nobody elected you. Shut your fucking mouth. We had sodas in my vending machines. Yeah, so she, in 2010, 2009, is when that was enacted. So I was in high school whenever they took the soda vending machines out.
Camera, it's got a brain, it's got storage, it's got a battery. The solar panel is the only kind of new thing, and it talks
and fried chicken for lunch? Yeah, dude. Yeah, we had pizza and fucking fried chicken and all kinds of cool shit. And then one day we come in and we've got sloppily made hamburgers with no spice made from like the hot dog meat you would use on a cow, and like just gruel, just nasty lunches. So, dude, if you like, and this goes back even to like Reagan's wife, Nancy Reagan, who fucked up so much shit. Dog, we have got to stop indulging these people who have sex with somebody important, and now they get married to someone important, and now everybody just thinks that, oh yeah, because you're the president's wife, you have something to say and we should listen. Fuck no. Fuck no. Hell no.
The internet and puts its stuff in the cloud.
It's the device. Solar panel, camera, modem, battery. You could describe it to somebody in 2016. You could have described it to somebody in the 90s even, and it would have made sense. It's a glorified game camera. If you guys hunt, I don't know if you guys hunt out there. Comment down below if you hunt. I'm just asking too many people to comment down below now. I look like an idiot, so I'm sorry. No,
dude, that's what I love about Oompaville. He is very self-aware.
Is exactly why there are 120,000 of them at the time of recording this video. The old way of doing city surveillance was expensive as a motherfucker. If you wanted a camera on a street corner, you had to run power to that bitch and run data to that bitch, which means trenching, which means permits, which means paying somebody. And
which basically, so they were gonna always do this. They just waited for the technology to be there so they could do it cheaply. Because one thing about the government is they need to have their kickbacks, They need to have, for every 30% of the money they spend on something, they need to have 70% in their own fucking pockets.
And if you're the government and you have to pay somebody, they're gonna take advantage of you. And then if that works out, it's a contractor, then that means a maintenance contract that lasts forever, and usually it's a gigantic L for the local municipality, generally.
Yeah.
But this is an even bigger L for the local municipality, but way better for the expense and the budget. Normal old school outdoor cameras cost orders of magnitude more than indoor cameras because they're such a pain in the ass to set up and maintain. And there's plenty of public places in America that have outdoor surveillance and CCTV and all that and whatnot. It's not like
it was actually found illegal in my state. They used to have street cameras that would take a picture of you as you pass through, and if you ran the light or whatever, they would send a ticket to your house, just mail it to you. That was found to be illegal. They can no longer do that. But the security cameras are still up on nearly every fucking light. And I could tell you that they are active and they are watching them because I have a buddy who works for MoDOT, the Missouri Department of Transportation, and he has literally sent me footage of my own house. He's literally sent me footage of my front door because I live at an intersection.
Government Illuminati just now decided to spy on us. It's just gotten much, 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 much cheaper to mass surveil the populace. Flock solved that problem. You've got the solar panel, no power line, LTE modem, no data line, plus a beautiful little onboard AI, like our own proprietary Arnuki GPT over here. This is the Arnuki beast. He speaks in his own GPT language.
Okay.
What'd you say? Shut the fuck up, idiot. He's built for abuse. He's got an onboard AI, so it only phones home when it sees something that's actually worth sending, much like ET. You boat that to a pole in 20 minutes and walk away from that for 2 years. It's a very interesting and effective solution to a problem. If you need to surveil outdoors, this is the perfect, interesting little way to solve that problem on a mass scale. The issue that we all have and should definitely have is that these little dastardly fuckers are just kind of pointed at whatever.
Yeah.
People who are just going around. It's not pointed at the crack den necessarily.
They have flock cameras that are just pointed at swimming pools. A lot of these flock cameras are put up and they're pointed directly at gun stores. Like, dog, this is not to find people on the road that are doing bad stuff. This is for mass surveillance.
It's surveilling just people. And originally, the pitch was that the camera would take a picture of a license plate, send that license plate over the cell network to a database. The database would check against a list of stolen cars. Stolen car goes by, bing, cop gets a ping, bing, bang, they've got their guy. Fine, reasonable. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're taking a picture of a plate on the back of a car,
But they always start with something reasonable, and they always work their way towards something unreasonable. But by the time that they get there, nobody even realizes it as unreasonable anymore. They just see it as a normal, everyday thing.
it's just taking a picture of the car. It's not just magically cropping everything out. Flock takes what it captures and then builds something the company calls a vehicle fingerprint.
They say it only takes 3 generations to enslave a country.
That is their proprietary term. And using what they describe as a proprietary machine learning algorithm, that fingerprint includes vehicle make, type, color, license plate, state on the license plate, covered plates, missing plates, and quote, unique features like roof racks and bumper stickers. So everything about the vehicle, basically. Are you a lesbian driving a 2012 Subaru Outback?
I mean, if you're driving a Subaru Outback, then yeah, you are a lesbian.
Or are you just my childhood friend Forrest, who's not a lesbian but just loves the Subaru Outback? Because
no, I don't believe him.
It's an extremely reliable vehicle that now has almost 400,000 miles on it without a single hitch. Flock knows. So, if we think about what I just said before the Outback thing, they can search you by a bumper sticker. So functionally, you can run a query for every vehicle in a city carrying a particular message on the back, potentially.
Yep.
Maybe a rival candy company in my case, or potentially a particular political message.
Yep.
It's not really a hypothetical that I invented to scare you in this video. That is a feature described in the marketing copy for the company.
Literally, they're saying it to your face. When people tell you who they are, believe them.
Car can be searched for based on an opinion that you put on it, which is that's a First Amendment thing. They're just able to search through speech now on your
Dog, America is literally the last bastion of freedom of speech. We are, and we are very quickly losing it. Very, very quickly. Look at the Shiloh Hendricks case, right? Where she called some dude the N-word who was following her and her kid around. She has been criminally charged for a word. I don't care how you feel about the word. That's bullshit. You should never, ever, that's literally written into our Constitution. You should never, ever be in any sort of criminal liability at all for the words you use.
Your car. that's fucking insane, dude. They've also got this thing called...
Realistically, though, I also think that was built in specifically so that we could Now, this is a hot take. I think that they built that in specifically so that we could threaten politicians. I think they built that in specific. They did not say freedom of speech unless you like threaten to hurt somebody or say something bad that we don't agree with. No, they said freedom of speech, dude. Like, I believe that they wanted people to be able to be like, look, if you're in the government and you're not working for us, we're going to revolt. Like that was part of it. The revolution was baked into the Constitution, and the right to be able to have a revolution was baked in. And then they spent 100 years teaching us that violent revolutions are actually always evil. But if you look at it, any time a civilization has become decadent and the government has stopped helping their people, the only thing that's ever turned it around, ever, in the history of humanity, was a violent revolution, ever. So, I mean, I'm not condoning it for legal reasons, but, you know.
Convoy analysis, which finds vehicles that keep showing up near each other and flags them as associated. So now it's where you were and who you were with. And even bigger, if that's not bad enough, they've moved into...
Look, it's like, this is how I believe about it. If you can vote, if you're allowed to vote your way out of things, then there's no reason to get violent ever. The issue becomes whenever it becomes clear that you are unable to vote your way out of stuff. That 80% of the country can say one thing, like pass the SAVE Act, and then it doesn't get passed. Like, that's whenever you know we're not, like, it's not real. It's not real. You can't vote your way out of it at that point. That's just a hypothetical.
You were with it. And even bigger, if that's not bad enough, they've moved into radio with RF readers, which could potentially flag the signals coming off your phone, your smartwatch, your earbuds, your car.
I should probably let you know what the SAVE Act is. The SAVE Act is a bipartisan supported bill by the civilians and a completely unsupported bill by the politicians, which says that you should be able to, or you should have to give your legal state ID to be able to vote. You want to buy alcohol, you have to use an ID. You want to buy a gun, you have to use an ID. And in the case of New York, where they have their little free fucking grocery stores or whatever, you have to use an ID. But those same people who will tell you to use an ID in a grocery store are the same people that will tell you that using voter ID is racist or it should not be allowed. Dog. It's actually crazy. Now, my conspiracy here is that the reason that the Republicans are waiting to pass the SAVE Act is because they fucked up so bad during this past year. They, like, had a literal supermajority and couldn't get anything of value done. They fucked up so bad that they knew they were going to lose their elections to actual real people. So they kept the SAVE Act in, or kept the SAVE Act out and did not pass it so that all of their little buddies could get back into Congress and Senate.
Tire pressure,
they're just hoping we forget.
Sensors, or the discreet bullet vibe hidden in your buddy Todd's butt. And even if you're close enough, the chip in your credit card in your back pocket, because those chips are RF too, if you didn't know, by the way. It's pretty fucking terrifying for you and Todd, maybe.
The RF data collection here is just one of the many new tricks that Flock is bringing to the table. They have drones now.
That's crazy.
The main goal is to have a multi-sensor database and a fusion system that ties all of those things together.
But recently, Flock has officially announced that their cameras do not have the capability to track Bluetooth devices. That's a good sign. That's a really good sign. So
Yeah.
love them or hate them.
I'm sure that's true. I'm totally sure that's true. This is why I always have my Bluetooth turned off on my phone. I always have my Bluetooth and my location turned off.
T-Rex Labs did an excellent technical breakdown of this hardware on their YouTube channel and proposed that the end goal for Flock is to eventually replace all their cameras with modules that are RF only. Because once you can read RF, the radio and shit, you don't need to take pictures. You can track phones, cars, watches, and wallets because everything uses RF. And if it's just RF, that means there's no lens, there's no camera, and it means they'd be really difficult to destroy. We'll talk more about that.
Difficult to destroy and difficult to spot.
Later, because people are destroying them. Back to 2017, Atlanta, Georgia. 3 Georgia Tech
Look, if you see a Flock camera in your neighborhood and you don't destroy it, then you're not a patriot.
grads in their underwear leaning over their kitchen table. They're building a prototype for a new technology that they hope to eventually scale. It's not a prototype. It's not a supercomputer or some born secret black budget Pentagon thingamajig. It's a fucking camera. A very simple one, much like the one we've been talking about in this video, because it is. And later, a DeKalb County detective calls to announce that the team's camera just helped solve a home break-in, and these young men in their underwear immediately celebrate by quitting their day jobs. And that is the origin story of Flock. A detective, a break-in, a celebration and disbelief that it actually worked. And it's also the literal story that every startup wants and dreams about. Some dude solves his neighbor's problem. Dude builds a company. Dude hires his bros. I don't have a problem with any of that. I've done that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Multiple times. Aside from
Out of context, that's cool.
solving the neighbor's problem part and also the making of the money, I'm just a dude who's been hiring his bros for a while. The point of that acknowledgement is that nobody in the room in 2017 was going, and then in 9 years, cops will use this to stalk their ex-girlfriends and abuse the power that we give them.
Yeah, it starts with a drip, and eventually that drip corrodes whatever it's falling onto. And then you get the giant reservoir of water that's been sitting there, drip after drip, that bursts through and takes everything with it.
Massively. We will create a mass surveillance police state that's unstoppable. They didn't say that back then.
Yeah, in the past 2 years, we've gotten 100,000 flock cameras installed.
That's not what happened then. It's what's happening now, unfortunately. What actually happened is what always happens when you create something that can be used to exploit people. Somebody who likes to exploit people will write you a big, fat, stinking check. Guess who wrote that big, fat, stinking check?
The government.
The Antichrist, Peter
Oh my
Thiel!
God. Holy shit. By the way, Peter Thiel is literally, what's the word? Whenever you switch the words or the letters around, he's that for the reptile. I mean, if you take the letters in his name and mix them around, it spells the reptile. Peter Thiel, this guy, this is one of the, so like, I don't know. He's one of the people why I believe that some laws don't exist specifically to protect people like this, because in a serious society, this guy would have already been, he would have already been put to death for his crimes, literally. And I mean legally. I don't mean like a lynch mob going out and getting him. I mean like the legal process would have already put this man in chains and locked him up forever, if not executed him for crimes against humanity. This is how you know that nothing that's happening is meant to protect us. It's meant to protect him and his friends.
Among the early money in flock safety is Peter Thiel's Founders Fund. Genius! The next thing I'm gonna say is gonna sound dramatic, even more dramatic than accusing Peter Thiel of being the Antichristos. Peter Thiel, I believe objectively, wants to build a police state based on AI. I think that's his goal, and
Dog, that's literally what he says. He made a company named Palantir, which is the evil all-seeing eye, basically, that Sauron uses.
I think that is his project. And if you don't believe me, you can watch the other video that we did in and around Peter Thiel. And how's this for an inspirational quote?
By the way, Peter Thiel, right before Joe Rogan started becoming this like guy who nobody trusts anymore because he's definitely bought, he started hanging out with Peter Thiel and all his buddies, going to lunches with them. His boys tried to tell him not to, and he did anyway. And now Joe Rogan 100% is compromised. There's not even any other way to look at it. He's fully compromised, and I think he's starting to compromise his friends as well.
Thiel.
By the way, speaking of Joe Rogan, how the fuck does Ari Shaffir even exist? How does Ari, like, who is supporting this man? Because the only funny thing he ever did was The Amazing Racist, which would get you canceled into oblivion today. So, like, and he never made a funny comedy special. None of his stand-up is, like, I barely even watched his stand-up because it's not funny. He's just kind of an asshole to everybody around him. Who is paying to keep Ari Shaffir relevant? Because the dude has not been relevant ever in his entire life, if you think about the things he's done and who he is. And yet, for some reason, he's in every in circle of every big comedian. Why?
In 2009, writing in public under his own name, I no longer believe freedom and democracy are compatible. Dude, that is so out of context.
Dude, whenever he was asked if he thinks that humans should survive, it took him a good 10 seconds before he even answered.
It's so unfair to say that about somebody. Please, please don't put any out of context clips of Peter Thiel talking about humans and freedom in this video.
And to those who think this shooter is a hero because he did it because he said this healthcare executive was presiding over a healthcare system which kills thousands of Americans by denying them cover, what would you say to them?
What? What is taking him so long? He's reading a script that someone wrote for him. Look at his eyes over there. Look at his eyes for him. Someone is literally typing out to him, maybe even AI right now, what he should respond. He's reading. He's reading right now. He's literally left to right reading.
I don't.
Either way, it's an
What the fuck? The whole Luigi Mangione thing is kind of a gray area for me. Like, realistically, in my world, people like that CEO would be tried for crimes and, like, actually found guilty in a court. But that doesn't exist right now. That all these corporations, these corporate fucks are allowed to do whatever they want, and there's never a repercussion for them at all. They commit a heinous crime, and they pay 1/100th of the profits that they made that year in a fine to pay off the government. So, where it comes to Luigi, it's like, I wish he didn't have to go there. But at a certain point, the Second Amendment is pretty clear on its purpose. The Second Amendment is actually explicitly clear on its purpose. So, I mean, you know, not condoning anything he did legally, but I will say I understand it.
insane thing to say. That is a public quote coming from a man who has invested millions of dollars into various data collection, government defense, and intelligence agencies, including PayPal. But that seems to be just a little sweet treat for him along the hard path towards world domination. Also early on the Flock thing is Andreessen Horowitz, a venture capital firm whose founder went on a podcast.
Wait, no. He actually looks like that? Dog. No fucking way. No, but fuck me, dude. This is why people think reptiles are real. This is why people think that aliens or reptiles control humanity.
Podcast and said, once again publicly, this is a direct quote, democracy is fake. There is always a ruling class. There is always a ruling elite structurally. Now, I don't disagree with that take, because that is true.
Yes.
That is definitely true.
100%.
But I don't think democracy is fake, okay? I don't think it's fake. I think fake is a crazy, that's a crazy way to start that sentence, but I get the vibe of it. I do agree with the vibe. It is crazy for the person who's actually saying it to be implying, you know, the implication is that democracy is fake because the person saying it is the one behind the scenes among the group, you know, the ruling class or whatever.
What the hell's with that weird clipping? Do you see that weird clipping happening right here? Watch, what the fuck is this?
The person saying it is the
what
one
is happening
behind
there?
The scenes.
What is happening there? What am I seeing?
Among the group, you know, the ruling class or whatever. I love that. I love the honesty. We're the good guys. It's we're the good guys energy from the people who finance the eyes on the street. It's really cool. Obviously, I realize that somebody investing in a company doesn't mean that they actually control the company necessarily. In some cases, they have a say. But the Founders Fund has money in 1,000 different companies and firms. But also, when you're trying to figure out what a new piece of infrastructure that is absolutely terrifying for the rights of individuals and what that infrastructure means in terms of the market and everything like that, it's not that crazy to look at who paid to have it built out and scale it up.
True.
And also what those people who have paid to have it build out and scale up, what they've said out loud about how they want American society to be organized.
It's actually completely reasonable to do that. Dude, it's back to that old thing. When people tell you who they are, believe them.
You know, that makes sense. Now, how about this fun fact? Yet another thing I can't personally get past without feeling a budding rage in the cockles of my balls.
Dog, I feel so much rage about where we're at, honestly. I think a lot of American men right now, like under the age of 40, are bursting with angry bursts of testosterone about where the fuck we're at in our society. And also, it's not even acceptable in society to show your anger ever, which is crazy to me. You can't yell at an employee even though they're fucking everything up. You can't call your wife stupid because she's acting stupid. Like, oh no, now that's abusive. It's crazy. It's fucking crazy, dude. But she could cry to you for 5 hours straight, but you can't yell at her once. It's crazy.
Or dick or whatever I don't know where rage.
Because feminine feminine emotions are propped up while male emotions are treated as evil.
Really comes from like my stomach, I think. Oh, my belly. Flock says there's over 120,000.
It's the same reason why we have in schools why women do so much better than men in school. It's because they are specifically more inclined to be able to sit there and listen and to be involved like that. Men at that age, boys, I guess I should say, need to be running around playing, like building stuff, learning with their hands, dude. Like most boys are actually not naturally good at just sitting there and listening to someone propagandize to them for 8 hours a day, every day of the week. Most boys are not naturally inclined to doing that. They're much more if you could sit them down with a tool shop for 8 hours, they'd probably sit there and be enthralled. You know, this whole like, I mean, all right, well, this is going to be a wild take right here, all right? I'm going to throw this on the table, though. The whole anti-segregation push has actually done a huge amount of damage to people, like, because we believe that everybody's the exact same and nobody's different and nobody needs anything special for them. So women and men are treated the exact same and they are put into the same classes, even though men learn statistically a very different way than women do. Not that any one of them is smarter or better than the other one, but statistically and just logically, men react differently and they learn differently. But we are put into a system that 100% favors the feminine over the masculine.
Like my stomach, I think. Oh, my belly.
To the point where if you defend yourself in school, if somebody attacks you and you defend yourself and attack back, you are going to get expelled too, or at least suspended. You're going to get in trouble too. Self-defense, in 100% of the cases, should never ever have any repercussions. Self-defense, and I mean true self-defense, not just attacking someone because they made you angry or said a bad word that you don't like, but actual self-defense where someone's attacking you and you defend yourself, that should always be encouraged. Always, always, always be encouraged. Straight up.
Flock says there's over 120,000 cameras, but a bunch of volunteers, aka regular people, with a map and...
Frankly, if I ran a school, I would give awards to kids who fought back. Frankly.
But a bunch of volunteers, aka regular people, with a map and clearly not much going on in their lives.
Yeah.
I mean that with complete and total love, because this is one of the most useful and interesting things that anybody's done all...
Hey, sometimes you don't have a lot to do with your life, so you decide to take up a cause that's important. You know, these are good things. I like this. You know, it's And it's the whole thing where everybody thinks that they want to be oppressed. Everybody wants to fight for the oppressor and be the next Martin Luther King. But they're all running in the wrong direction. Like, we need to get more special treatment for black people. We need to get more special treatment for women. We need to get more special treatment for immigrants. We need to do this and that and the other thing. And it's like, you have your actual moment to do something that matters with the flock cameras and people actually being oppressed and their rights actually being completely taken away, and instead you'd rather fight on some imaginary front line that doesn't exist, dude. If you think that there is any system in America where a white person has an advantage over a black person or a man has an advantage over a woman, then you need to seriously step back and take a look at what's happening in the world, because there are, back in the 1960s that could have been true, but today that's not true. That's literally not true. There's not a system built up to make white men succeed more than anybody else. And in fact, personally, from what I've witnessed in the past 30 years of life, is that it's the exact opposite. And the systems are set up specifically so that we have less of a chance to succeed.
All year, they went out and physically located basically all these flock cameras, and they found 95,923. As of recording this video. That's 24,000 cameras that the company says exist, but nobody outside looking for them can really find. That's 1
creepy.
in 5. So where are they?
Yeah.
Of course, some of that missing margin is just the map being incomplete. Volunteers can't cover a continent instantaneously. But remember what we talked about just a few minutes ago about the RF-only modules, the ones with no lenses.
The thing that gives me hope, though, is the Shia LaBeouf story. The Shia LaBeouf He Will Not Divide Us, where he put up a little thing and people could come up and talk to it, and they fucked around and he had to get it taken down. And then he tried to put it on top of a museum or whatever, and people ended up getting up top and taking the flag down. And then he put it on a video camera of just the flag flying in the sky saying He Will Not Divide Us. And that was it. That was all you could see, was a sky and a flag. And within that day, the internet got together and found this flag, took it down, replaced it with a meme flag, and put up Chatelet, which is actually hilarious and amazing. Whenever you give people enough reason to do something, whether it's memeing and trolling or actually fighting for their rights, people will get together and they will do stuff that's truly amazing, honestly.
Nothing to see, nothing to point at, nothing like that.
The reason they want to keep us all divided, the reason they want to keep us all angry at each other, and the reason they want to push identity politics is specifically to stop this, because the collective consciousness is stronger than any government, no matter what, every time.
Maybe that's why we can't find all the cameras, because they're not all cameras. I don't know, dude. I'm a conspiracy theorist nowadays. I'm full-on conspiracy theorist, but I do think we landed on the moon still, because they just blew up that thing on the moon. That looked pretty real. And I don't really know why they would do that.
I mean, here's the thing about that, though, is, I mean, I'm not a moon landing denier, realistically, but at the same time, it doesn't really prove that we got to the moon if Elon Musk accidentally crashes an unmanned ship into the moon. You know, in fact, it kind of says the opposite a little bit. Like, damn, we still don't have the technology to even land on the moon, and there was no people in there, so nobody had to go all the way that distance, and yet still, the fucking automatic robot thing couldn't even land. So, what are we doing here?
Yeah, just the moon. I like conspiracies. I think most of them are real.
Yeah.
To be honest. Most of them are real. Like,
it's a good 80% of them that are true. For real.
Actually, most of them. But are they fully real? No. Of course not.
Well, there's always some crackpot that comes in and adds something to the theory that's not true. You know, that's the thing. And I feel like some of that is controlled opposition to come in and put out something ridiculous, you know? For example, with the Pizzagate thing, where everybody was coming out and saying there was this pizza-based pedophile ring. And all of the media sphere, everybody said that was ridiculous. There was no way that could happen. And then they tried to make it seem like a ridiculous argument by saying that people were saying that there was a specific basement of a pizza shop that was selling kids, when that was never actually part of it. That was just controlled thing to throw in there so that people would see the theory as ridiculous. And then it turns out that there actually is a huge pizza-themed fucking pedophile ring that was run by Jeffrey Epstein. So, they'll throw in these extra things oh, well, they're saying that they ran it in a basement, so this has got to be a crazy conspiracy theory, when the theory was always that they used pizza as the terminology to get away with it. Never that they ran it out of a fucking basement in a pizza shop.
They're not fully real. They're mostly real. And there's always some crazy people that just kind of ruin them and make them unpalatable for the rest of everybody else. The government wins when people suffer. That's
true.
Nobody disagrees on that. So all the information, the plates, the fingerprints, all that shit, the convoy tracking, the RF, goes up over the LTE network into a cloud database that Flock owns and runs. A private company.
And
That's
then
crazy.
that goes into the database, not just as a time and a place, but you start to have database entries that contain vehicle locations, but also their routes.
That means that the cameras are not really the business model. The cameras are the cost of doing business. They're part of the overhead. They're part of the liability.
Anything like this, you are the product. This is especially true for free-to-play games or anything that's free. Especially Google, you are the product. They're not selling you the search engine, for example, with Google. They're giving you the search engine so that you'll use it and they can sell your data.
On the balance sheet. So let's say a neighborhood association buys a Flock camera. They think that they're going to be buying a camera for their neighborhood to keep their neighborhood safe or whatever. But what they're actually doing is donating a sensor to collect data to a national law enforcement network, and then also paying for that privilege to provide that data. And if you don't believe that, how about the CEO? Again, in 2020, talking to police, he said, "At the end of the day, we view the police department as our actual end user.
They're the only ones that can make an arrest. So neighborhoods, apartment complexes, motels, hotels, malls, and hospitals might pay for the camera, but more often than not, the only ones that are actually looking at it are the police.
He finished that by saying,
Yeah, dude, because there's no corrupt police officers in the world, right? I'm like a big police supporter, frankly. I support a lot of the police, but to pretend like there's not a bad apple in every bunch is crazy. There's at least one bad cop in every department, and by bad cop, I mean someone who is not only probably compromised in a financial way, but also just like evil, just like a bad guy. And a lot of these times they're protected by the department, which by virtue of it makes the department a bad place. It's the whole argument with the with people who are anti-trans, you know? It's like not a lot of people are actually against being around a trans person straight up. What they're against is the bad actors not being held accountable by their own community. That's where that actually lies. It's whenever someone wants to come into a kid's bathroom and they're a dude with a beard wearing a dress, and you just have to pretend like it's normal. Like, it's people that are taking advantage of systems, and then everybody in their community collectively agreeing that it's okay. And letting it happen. That's what causes people to be against stuff. That's why people are so anti-police. It's not because most police officers are bad. Most of them are good. It's because the few that are bad are protected by the system. That's why people are so anti-trans. Because realistically, trans people have existed for a long time. And there have been jokes and stuff about them, but nobody had serious, real hate for real to the most part. But now you're seeing a lot more hate because the bad actors in the group are not being held accountable. They're being treated as heroes. And this is especially funny with the WNBA shit that's going on with Royce White. Let her play. But Royce White was a NBA player, decent one, not amazing, but not horrible, just like a really decently good NBA player. He's now done with the NBA. And recently, the WNBA, the woman version, which has never made a single dollar in their entire existence and has gotten all of their money from the regular NBA, the WNBA came out and disavowed. So this lady who works for them, who plays for a team, said that there should not be males in female sports spaces. Clearly, obviously, no matter what side of the end you sit on, that's obviously true. There's literally laws put in place from years and years ago to protect women's sports spaces for this exact reason. And the WNBA came out and disavowed her statements and said that trans people are welcome in the WNBA. So then this basketball player named Royce White came out and said, okay, I'm a woman now, let me play. And they said that actually Royce White was being disingenuous, so he's not actually a woman and he's not actually allowed to play. Well, what is it? What is it? Is it if I say I am, then I am? Or do you get to be the arbiter of who's serious or not? Because you're really shitting the bed with this one because your ideology doesn't actually make any sense. And the reason that is because you're not holding bad actors accountable. You can't call out Royce White and call him a bad actor while at the same time not calling out the people on the other end that are bad actors. Like, for example, the bearded man walking into a bathroom. Into a girl's bathroom. These are clearly, if you call out one, you have to call out the other. But because we spent so long saying that everybody who says that they're trans is actually trans, then we've gone the full other direction of nobody wants to even support it anymore. Nobody even wants to be around it. They don't want it to exist. And you've got the whole, it just doesn't make sense. But then you get the LGBT, right? LGB makes sense. LGB are sexualities. T is how you see yourself. Trans is not. Lesbian, gay, and bisexual are your sexuality. A lot of people say that's how you're born. I think it's probably true because I was born straight and I'm pretty fucking straight still. So I'd say that that's probably true. I don't really know. I don't have perspective on it, to be honest. Nobody is really against the lesbians, the gays, or the bisexuals. Nobody really has a problem with those at all. But because this ideology of trans got mixed in with it, now it's these three sexualities and then this one how you see yourself, which again is not a sexuality, because you could be trans and you could be gay, you could be trans and you could be straight, and you could be trans and you could be bisexual. So it literally has nothing to do with sexuality at all. It's your self-visual. It has no place at all in the LGBT community at all. Like when it comes to them fighting for their rights, and the more you include T in the LGB, the farther we will get away from retaining rights for the LGB community. Honestly. Because the more people get angry at, teaching boys to wear dresses and transitioning children, the more people get angry at this stuff, the more they're going to lump in the entire group, because they've been lumping themselves in. You understand? Like, it's if the lesbians, the gays, and the bisexuals, and even the trans people that are actually trans would have just gotten together and been like, no, you're obviously being a bad person. You can't do this. Like, you can't. Dude, we had a trans person I worked with who got fired because they were in the ladies' bathroom, or they were in the ladies' locker room. It was a guy who transitioned to a girl, and they would stand in the ladies' locker room and just stare as they undressed and dressed. And then he actually got fired because he was sitting outside with two of the girls, and his dick and balls fell out of his short shorts. And it was clearly purposeful as well. The dude was a sexual pervert. Literally. And because nobody in the group is willing to call out someone like that, now they'll look at a regular, because we had an actual trans person there, someone who you looked at them, you would never even assume or guess or anything that they transitioned. You would just assume they are what they present as, because they don't go around trying to use it to their advantage. They don't go around calling people evil or whatever, what they say, trying to take people down because of what they said. No. They just live their lives as the dude that they want to be, because this is a female to male, and they want to be a dude, and they're living their lives as a dude, and you would never be able to tell. And this person is serious. This person is just really, that's who they want to be. And I can support this person in a way that I can't support fucking Ted with the beard whose dick is falling out. Like, it's hit a point of absurdity. Really.
End result is more cameras at no cost to you.
Genius. It's a really interesting business model. So, distributing and subsidizing the cost of a mass surveillance network onto just businesses.
And that's the thing, too. It's like back in the day, right? Trans people still existed. There are plenty of stories, right? The comedians or just regular people, whoever, have about, going to a bar and thinking they were picking up a chick, a hot chick at that. And then they find out when they get home and take their pants off that they had a dick. Like, a person that is seriously actually trans will almost always look the way they are presenting. They won't be some halfway in between fucking weird abomination. They will look the way they're presenting almost every time.
Subsidizing the cost of a mass surveillance network onto just businesses that think they want a security camera and to keep, their store, shop, or whatever safe. Have you flocked that plate? Have you flocked that? Police departments actually use that term. It's a real verb.
We've almost used it as a verb now. When we show up on a scene, I hear some of these kids, when I call them kids, these younger officers get out there and say, have you flocked that tag yet?
Also, there's a bunch of police departments that I've been seeing lately in my algorithm not using flock cameras, refusing to become a part of the mass surveillance state and actually uphold the Constitution.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's like, not all police officers are bad. And these guys are winning right now. And that's crazy, because that's the LAPD. LA is known for being an absolute shithole. But, a broken clock is right twice a day.
And protect and serve their local communities. It's really awesome. And I feel like a lot of local small communities just don't know. They don't have the information or really the means to understand why this is such a massive risk long-term for just people in general. It's horrifying. I don't want to live in a mass surveillance state. I don't want to live in fucking China. No offense. Privacy, security, individual freedoms are all things that are very important to me. For example, I own a shitload of firearms for no other reason than the reasons I just stated. I really like being able to exercise my freedoms as an American.
Hell yeah.
I like that. I like it a lot. I am very homesick for America. So the
Yeah.
idea is to get ahead of the crime, pre-crime. We've seen the movies, V for Vendetta, Eagle Eye, Minority Report, Skynet, basically. RoboCop even. Predictive policing doesn't really work, and the means to the end, for example, something like the Patriot Act, just violating people's privacy it's more of a crime than the crimes that are prevented. And it's
The Patriot Act is a huge crime against American people. The Patriot Act 100% needs to be repealed yesterday.
so hard to actually prove that because it's all based on mass propaganda and just emotion, whatever.
Yeah.
Crime, though, is an outlier event. The overwhelming majority of people on the overwhelming majority of days do not commit crimes. So when you build a pattern recognition mass surveillance system into a society and the pattern that you're looking for is statistically rare, what the system is going to produce is just noise.
You know, pattern recognition is considered racist unless you're a computer.
Or things that aren't usable for the goal, but it's still bad for a private company or anybody who wants to have control over a group of people to have that information. That noise is just patterns of everything else, where people go every single day, where policemen's ex-girlfriends go every single day, so they can stalk them. That's what's actually happening. And we will, believe me, get into that. These little bitches produce detailed, time-stamped, searchable records of law-abiding people going to work, church, going to the doctor, going to their girlfriend's house, scrolling and visiting sour.gg, for example.
Oh my God, what a baked-in ad. I love it.
It will see those things passing by, collect that data, send it to the cloud.
See, I actually don't mind whenever a creator is making their own product and they're just kind of, that's what they shill throughout it, especially the little sprinklings of it instead of having like a minute-and-a-half ad block that just is annoying. Like, this is awesome. I love Oompaville.
And to this large database. And again, fuse all of these different things together.
It's not a fucking crime stopper or detector when 99% of what you're detecting is just people's lives, with all of that data sitting on a private company's servers for 30 days, with no law requiring them to honor that 30 days, by the way.
Recently, they came out and they said, actually, we're going to change it to 6 days. Never, ever accept a concession. Never, ever accept a halfway measure. Dude, these things need to go. They don't need to be 6 days or they don't record. They just capture in the moment. No, they need to fucking go now.
In their policy. This company controls an enormous amount of data that could be monetized or sold or exploited in a ton of ways. I don't like it when the fucking government does that, and I really don't like it when a private company is doing that. There's a flock camera at the end of my road. How fucking insane is that? I live in a small town in Texas, and they're here. Why? There's like no crimes here, bro. What the
Texas has been bought and sold by Greg Abbott.
How the is any of this legal? The short answer to that question is that nobody really knows, and we're right at a very early stage of mass surveillance to where we're not sure if it's legal. If you didn't know, police can pull 30 days of your movements without...
It is. It is 100% illegal. Mass surveillance based on the American Constitution is illegal.
A warrant. That's why I mentioned the Fourth Amendment in the beginning of this video.
But to be completely honest, so are license plates. So, you know, the right to free travel is literally in our Constitution.
Yeah. The reason they can do that is because of a thing called the third party doctrine. It comes from two cases, United States versus Miller in 1976 and Smith versus Maryland in 1979. Miller said that you don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy in your bank records because you gave them to the bank. Smith extended that to phones and like the numbers that you call because you gave those numbers and that information to the phone company. The basic logic is once you hand somebody information, it's no longer private. But obviously that logic was determined in the 1970s when that information that was handed to a third party meant it was a fucking checkbook to a bank to apply.
Yeah, this is the thing, is a lot of these rules that are being enacted are by people who have literally no idea what an email even is.
That in 2026, it means almost everything you have ever done or touched or looked up or whatever you do goes through somebody's server somewhere, therefore you give away that data. Third-party doctrine in the 21st century could, in the worst case, mean that the Fourth Amendment applies to your house and essentially nothing else.
That's
not
crazy.
your internet, not your phone, not when you leave.
It wouldn't be the first time, though, that the American government misinterpreted the Constitution on purpose to take away our rights. But for example, the right to bear arms. People want to say that there was no way that George Washington or Thomas Jefferson or any of them knew about automatic weapons and what they would be. Automatic weapons existed before any of them were even born. Automatic weapons had been around since before they were literally born. The fact that they wrote it the way they did, they didn't say, well, you can own a rifle, but you can't own a cannon. Like, rockets and cannons were the most powerful military technology at the time. And yet, there was no concession saying that you could not own a cannon and you could not have a rocket launcher. There was nothing written about that in there. Realistically, if we were to take the Second Amendment fully at its word, you would be able to buy any weapon that the American government has the ability to produce. You would be able to, without restriction, buy a machine gun, buy a rocket launcher, like all these kinds of stuff. So they've already or the right to free travel. We have the right to free travel, and there's nothing written in there about like getting your horse licensed or your wagon licensed. But now we have to get license plates on our car. They have to be renewed every 2 years so that you can pay the government even more money for something that's bullshit. And in my state, if your car even gets a check engine light, now your car can no longer be legal. Because they literally plug it up to a computer that scans it to see if that light is on, and you have to pass it. So now that car can no longer be made legal. Now you can't drive it on the road anymore. Now you got to buy a whole nother car. It's all one big fucking scam, dude. But the right to free travel is literally against that. I mean, it's literally 100% against that. It's even against the fact of having to get a driver's license, which I'm actually not against. I think you should have to have a license to drive a car. Way too many dumbos. But I think that also the driver's test needs to be way harder because there are a lot of people on the road that literally cannot drive. There's no way. I just don't see how they passed a driver's test. But that being said, you know how I passed my driver's test? I smoked a whole bunch of weed. I went in there and aced the written test. And then I got in the car with a cop and drove around. I hit a curb 4 separate times while driving and crashed into the cone while doing the parallel parking test. And then she gave me my driver's license.
Your house and or your property. It's
What?
pretty horrifying.
Like, I should definitely have not gotten that driver's license, for sure. I fucked up every way along. And the written test is so easy that it's like, all right, here's 4 questions. You come to a stoplight and it's red. Should you A, stop, B, run the light, C, kill a pedestrian, or D, all of the above? And it's like, okay, all right, that's literally the questions. You have to get 20 out of the 40 right. Like,
Fine. Luckily, some courts have started pushing back 3 times, in fact. The United States versus Jones. The Supreme Court held that sticking a GPS tracker on a car and following it for 28 days is a search under the 4th Amendment. Good to know. Thank you, Breaking Bad. In this,
Wow.
the court was troubled by the ability to, quote, secretly monitor and catalog every single movement of an individual's car for a very long period. So 28 days of that is a violation of a constitutional right. Flock retains data for 30. How about Carpenter versus the United States? The Supreme Court held that when police want 7 days or more of your historical cell phone location data, they need a warrant. 7 days or more because of what the court...
so this is why they're saying they're only going to do 6 days now, is because there's precedent against them already, so they have to change it to 6 days because there's a precedent for 7. Dog, and this is crazy. This is actually insane.
Called the deeply revealing nature of location records
the hell?
and the inescapable automatic nature
also-
of how they're collected.
We also did not give it's not like the thing that they did with the 2 other rules where it's like, oh, well, you gave your information to the bank, you gave your information to the phone companies. None of us willingly signed up for this. None of us agreed to these terms. So, like, that already is completely thrown out the window in a defense. Already a completely irrelevant defense.
Sounds to me like the flock cameras might fit that definition, to be honest. Then came
Yeah.
a circuit court judge throwing out flock evidence in a criminal case in 2024 in Norfolk, Virginia, because it was obtained without a warrant, which is awesome. And the reason for that was, yes, any individual camera is stationary, but when you network 120,000 stationary cameras together, the network is decentralized and it tracks people. And it is a tracking device that's just happens to be on every single street corner, and it is not usable in that court specifically. Now, I've been mentioning courts and law enforcement, all that stuff. Only the government, people who can actually enforce the laws, are bound by the Fourth Amendment. Flock is a private company, so none of this really applies to them. They can still just track us if they want.
It's the crazy levels of obfuscation. This is why I think that laws are actually just bullshit. It's because, like, you can do something that's clearly wrong, clearly is only technically not illegal, but if you were to just like use any bit of logic at all, it is illegal. It is comparable, and yet they are able to use these different little paths and these different little side roads to make sure that oh well, the government can't do it, but if the government pays a second company to do it, now it's okay. It's like, obviously that's still not okay. Obviously, that's not okay, but because the laws are written the way they are, there's nothing we can do about it. It's crazy.
The Supreme Court has a doctrine for situations similar to this, the state actor doctrine, which exists specifically to stop the government from dodging the Constitution by outsourcing to private companies. Man, they thought of everything pretty much when they were up in them crazy big buildings out there. Private party gets treated as a state actor when it performs functions traditionally and exclusively performed by the government. Like mass surveillance and shit like that. When the government encourages the private action, or when the two become, in the court's phrase, pervasively entwined, the state actor doctrine applies. So, the CEO...
So exactly what Flock is doing, basically.
Flock said, "We view the police department as our actual end user." If you go read the reporting that Flock helped write police press releases and that officers appear in the company's promo videos, police departments were referring to homeowners associations in the company and introducing sales managers to other chiefs. I think that fits the definition of pervasively entwined, but I don't have a big wig. Or a gavel or anything like that. True. It seems obvious. There's
a lot of judges that are intentionally retarded.
Also, a 2026 law review comment out of Roger Williams arguing that Flock is flatly and in its entirety unconstitutional. But that is a student's note arguing under Rhode Island state constitution, which for some reason has stronger privacy protections than our federal constitution. So, fucking W for Rhode Island, I guess.
Yeah.
But it is a well-made argument, and hopefully somebody with federal power will eventually have to answer to it. Now, this next part makes me fucking insane, makes me want to run around naked pulling on it. This whole thing is solvable.
Bum, bum, bum. Jacking it in San Diego. Bum, bum, bum. Jacking it, jack. Smacking it, smack. Jacking it, jack. Jacking for the Lord.
It has already been solved by a little state called New Hampshire, the live free or die state. I own about 20 Q suppressors. I love New Hampshire. New Hampshire has a law that says if the plate scan isn't a hit, that the data cannot be recorded or transmitted anywhere and has to be purged within 3 minutes. That's fucking awesome. You can catch a stolen car, but you cannot keep a map of everybody else who isn't committing crimes. Fucking easy fix. That's so simple. Why is that?
Except it's still mass surveillance, dog. No, I'm sorry, but I can't get with this take. Not at all. You don't give them. If you give an inch, they will take a mile. That's a saying for a reason, because it's literally true. If you give these people an inch, they will take a mile. As soon as you say, well, it's okay if you just don't record the data, well, then in fucking 5 years, they're going to start recording the data, dude. Like, you cannot make concessions. You cannot allow them to simply change the rules slightly and keep on operating. No, this company needs to be dissolved. Straight up.
Not just normal. Why is New Hampshire awesome? It's just a bunch of old white people up there. I love New Hampshire, dude. So it's pretty terrifying. But hopefully, at least it catches criminals, right? Flock claimed at one point that their cameras produced an 80% reduction in burglaries in San Marino, California. That is a huge number and absolutely insane if true. But writing for Forbes, Cyrus Farivar went and checked it in 2024. And this shit is Hilarious. There was no reduction. Burglaries actually ticked up by 5% during
Dog. So they're just straight up lying. What a surprise.
the period in question. So the statistic was just false and made up entirely, not contextualized or misleading, just total fucking bullshit. How is it legal to just be like, yeah, we actually stopped,
It's actually not legal. There are rules against false advertising.
What's a good number? What's a good 80% of all crime in a 17-foot radius of the flock camera. This is really important because in their marketing, they're a private company. Every claim that the company makes about its own effectiveness is just bullshit, self-reported nonsense. There's no auditor or regulator. There's no independent body checking any of it at all. We're just taking a company for its word, and they're just lying. They're proven liars. So what happens when a third party actually tests the flock cameras? IPVM, an industry research group, not activists, an actual industry research group, tested and found that flock system misidentified a plate's state about 10% of the time.
The state, dude? That's crazy because every state's license plate literally looks completely unique. No two states have the same look on their license plate at all. So that's actually crazy that they couldn't even identify the state because there's visual markers like the color of it, the symbolism on it, the actual amount of numbers and letters and what order they're in. It's all different.
1 in 10. That's fucking terrible. So
Yeah.
1 in 10 times a plate may come back with the right numbers but the wrong state, and that will result in a felony stop for a stolen vehicle. That's that is an incredible risk.
Yeah.
Police, they think they're stopping a criminal. They have their guns
It's a completely unacceptable margin of error.
out. But it's not a stolen vehicle. It's actually Breath, Illinois, not Breath, Iowa. There is documented cases of this exact thing happening to people who did nothing wrong, which is fucking epic, dude. On top
like that one video of the lady who got pulled over and there was like 20 cops holding their guns at her and she was just driving around living her normal life, but they thought she was like a murderer or something because the flock cameras read her plates wrong.
of that, the federal database that Flock checks against, the NCIC or National Crime Information Center that is run by the FBI, it itself is famously inaccurate. So much so that when federal law required agencies to maintain records with enough accuracy to assure fairness to the individual, the FBI exempted itself from that fucking requirement because their data is dog shit. Then in December of 2025, 404 Media reported that Flock had left at least 60 of its Condor pan-tilt zoom cameras, the ones that are designed to track people, not cars, just left them live streaming open to the internet with no password and no login.
None of the
What?
data or video footage was encrypted. There was no username or password required.
Oh
These
my
were all
God.
completely public-facing for the world to see, and some of them still are.
You could just go watch people, like that Shia LaBeouf live stream.
That's fucking disturbing.
Well, everybody watched a couple years. He will
Yeah.
not divide us? Is that what he was saying?
But you're so supreme.
I don't know.
It's the guy I
he
think
did
of.
divide us. I think he really did. I think he really did. I think he really, that actually happened. So Shia LaBeouf was wrong entirely about
Yeah.
that. Among many other things. Let's be real. Shia LaBeouf is not a voice of reason. The
In
report
fact, there's a good rule that if Shia LaBeouf says something, you should probably do the opposite. So when he says just do it, just don't. Just don't.
404 drove to Bakersfield, stood in an intersection, and watched himself on the live stream while he waved at the camera. And his colleagues
What the
watched
fuck?
from quite a long ways away.
I found another one at Young Street and Harris Road, also in Bakersfield, which is about 15 minutes from the other spot.
Anybody with the link could just watch the live feed and download 30 days of archived video, read the log files, run diagnostics, and also change the camera settings. Very, very, very fun. Very cool. Among
my
this
God.
were many, by the way. There was even a camera that was pointed at a playground. Just
Dog, how is that finding criminals on the road? How is this camera finding criminals driving on the road? This is how you know our government is run by fucking pedophiles, dude.
watching children wide open on
Like this, and the fact that the camera auto zooms in off of a grown man onto children, like that's its priority, dude. Come on.
the internet for anybody, any freak, any pedophile, whatever. Flock aren't the only heads, by the way. Ever had a Ring doorbell? Ring gave their employees access to every camera in the world for some reason, along with customer details for some reason, and an internal investigation and an FTC lawsuit revealed instances where employees abused this power, including one worker who spied on thousands of video recordings from female users' intimate spaces like master bedrooms over several months. It's just normal. It's almost like when you spy on people, people take advantage of that.
Yeah.
The NSA, for example, Edward Snowden. I don't trust the government to do it. Why the would I trust a private company, dude? That doesn't even make any sense. They're even worse when they want to spy on people. What good private company's like, yes, my business is spying on people. Making bread the way grandma used to make it is a cool company. Or Sour Boys sour candy the way that we make it. That shit's kind of epic. How about this? We did a collab with Echelon recently. They're an energy drink brand.
Oh.
Killer Apple, Green Apple, available at Echelon. I've mentioned the abuse multiple times, and that is just a recurring story. The joke is, I'm a police officer. I swear to serve and protect and stalk my ex-girlfriend. There's a bunch of memes about it, but there is a reality behind the memes that's absolutely f***ing terrifying. Police are people, if you didn't know. And people can be f***ed up and do bad shit. The Washington Post's Drew Harwell reported on a woman in Georgia whose ex-boyfriend was a police chief in a small town near Atlanta. He started to stalk her and her daughter, and she couldn't work out how he always knew where she was at any given time. It turns out he had been running her license plate through the Flock network hundreds of times.
Doesn't surprise me.
And when he was arrested
at
for
all.
it, he took his own life. But not before being charged with stalking, harassing communications, and a misuse of the technology. Having access to the Flock system is this stalker's wet...
I honestly, whenever someone does something heinous or fucked up and they're a criminal and they get caught for it and then they fucking kill themselves, I'm like, okay, good. Like, oh, fuck that person. Like, dog, we need to be more okay with just like being like, yeah, you know what, that person sucked, it's good they don't exist.
Dream. And this poor woman couldn't go anywhere without her ex knowing exactly where she was at, most moments. And horrifically, this abuse and misuse of the system is not just a lone outlier lone wolf case. Based on court records, meaning these are only the ones who've been caught and prosecuted, at least 50 law enforcement officers have used license plate readers for unauthorized purposes.
That's just the ones we know.
In 26 of those cases, investigators and prosecutors said the officer used it to spy on their wives, their girlfriends, their exes, their partners, new partners, or women that they were simply interested in. That is fucking horrifying, bro. Over half of all the documented misuse that has gone to court is a cop using a surveillance network to track down just women. In Wisconsin, an officer used it to check whether his ex-girlfriend had gone into an abortion clinic. In Kansas, a police chief tracked his ex in order to walk in on her while she was with another man.
All right, dude, this is how I feel about abortion, right? I'm gonna throw this out here too, since we're just talking about real stuff. All right, if you want abortion to be legal, then it should also be completely legal for the man to walk away and decide he doesn't want to be involved in the kid's life. This, to be fair, has to happen within the same time frame. So, however long a woman has to fucking commit murder, I guess that's how long a dude has to walk away and say he doesn't want to be involved. Past that point, you're involved. Past that point, you're liable for child support. But that's how I feel about that. But also, there's definitely a limit. I don't really agree with abortion, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It's like not really that big of an issue for me. My problem comes whenever they're passing laws like they just recently did, whatever state that was, where you can now abort your kid up to birth. To the uproarious applause of all the women in the room, which is not surprising considering all this Clancy stuff where it turns out that apparently women just fantasize about killing their children all the time. Apparently that's just super normal for them to do, which is actually fucking insane. I don't know, dude. I don't even know where to go at this point,
In Florida, a deputy put a young actress on a watch list and was speeding to intercept her when he nearly caused a head-on collision. In California, a former deputy used it as a part of a month-long campaign against his former fiancée that also involved a hidden camera in a roommate's bathroom. And that makes me want to drop trowel and take a shit right on the floor in here because it's f***ed up, all right? And that's just the only reaction I have left nowadays. By the way, this misuse is not new. It's just gotten easier with the Flock system. In 2005, 12 years before Flock even existed, a Milwaukee officer ran the plate of a person he was dating 200 times. He also had a buddy run her ex's plate, and the officer he asked to investigate the ex turned out to be doing the exact same thing to a few people in his own life. Oh my God, man. Curiosity killed the cat. There have been people in law enforcement abusing license plate readers for 2 decades with clunky bullshit standalone equipment and no decentralized network where you can just look at anybody at any given time. Flock did not invent the behavior, they just made it substantially easier and way more dangerous. Eva Galperin, the director of cybersecurity at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, has said that the abuse of this tool is inevitable, not likely, but rather inevitable. She's basically the person watching this whole thing from the sidelines, already knowing the ending. She's the weird bathtub girl in the Minority Report who screams. So what is Flock doing about this rampant abuse of their product?
Nothing.
The company's response was that they'd be announcing better filters and tools to stop abuse before it happens. Pre-screening the crime that's being committed on the pre-crime screening. I think a great way to stop this is to set up Flock cameras in every single policeman's house who is a part of a police department who wants Flock cameras to police their community. I think that's only...
Well, I mean, truthfully, if you're a police officer and you want Flock cameras in your town, then there should be cameras, not just Flock cameras, but regular cameras that are inside of your entire facility, police facility, front to back, and we can see everything, and it's publicly available to everybody. If you want to run a surveillance state, then you better have your entire life, like the feeds from every cop car inside of them, the body cam footage. We need that all live streamed so that we can watch it whenever we want. It's a two-way street.
Fair. I feel like that is what would be the great equalizer here. And by the way, I don't mind the police. I probably come off sometimes like I hate police and sort of stuff, but I really don't. I've only had good interactions. Obviously, I've only had good interactions, and I've grown up with people who have become police officers who I trust, and I think that they're good people. But obviously, the micro doesn't equal the macro in both senses. It's a double-ended sword. You can be good, and it doesn't make all of them good, and you can be bad, and it doesn't make all of them bad. They're people, and people can be giant pieces of massive shit.
True.
And when you give them a ton of power, they're gonna be pieces of shit with all that extra power.
In fact, when you give someone power, they always become the worst version of themselves. That's the way I look at it. You give a man power, he'll always become the worst version of himself. And that's why the people who are truly great leaders are truly great. Because that's the worst version of themselves. That's what you're seeing there. That's them with unlimited power.
Flock. I love my rights. I love privacy as a human being. And basically, anybody who likes this and wants this to continue. Seriously, go yourself. Or move. Go to China or some other backwater that mass surveils its citizens.
True.
I want freedom, and I want to be left alone by my government and law enforcement because I'm a law-abiding citizen. The amount of overreach that we have seen this year from law enforcement is atrocious.
Terrifying.
Oh my God, it's actually insane. By the way, I was being tongue-in-cheek about me not ever experiencing anything negative. Like it's being facetious. I don't often come across as overly sarcastic or overly facetious, so a lot of people don't understand when I'm joking or being facetious or saying something that's just not true. When it's obviously a thing that, obviously this guy would think that. Of course he would. Probably joking around. All right, guys? Probably just fucking fooling around on you. TBH. Nobody knows when I'm joking. I need to get better at that shit. I just seem like an asshole a lot. I don't mean to. I just think it's funny. I like saying stuff that's funny. Or absurd. You know, I like saying stuff that's absurd. Like, I didn't actually want to pull my pants down and shit on the floor. That one's more obvious because it's so insane. And you imagine me my little pasty white bung, just like, oh, he just pooped right on the floor, right on his dog. There's my dog right there. I just shit on her. I'm not going to do that, clearly, guys. Yes, I realize that it's very statistically likely that I'd have a great interaction with police. I drive the speed limit. I don't break any laws. And I'm just a little white guy, a little Semite. I'm a Semite, right? You're a Semite when you have Lebanese heritage, right? Arabic heritage?
I don't know.
Isn't that Semitic? Flock also...
Yeah, it is.
Thankfully, noted that the officers who misuse the system are a small share of the 140,000 active users. So, out of 140,000 police, there is a small share of which that are abusing the system and fucking doing things improperly. That
Bad apple ruins the bunch.
is so... They would be able to know, by the way. Flock could easily solve this issue. They could just be like, oh, this guy's searching the same woman. Why? Let's investigate. Let's open a support ticket. They probably make so much fucking money that it'd be impossibly simple to solve this issue if they actually wanted to solve it. I like the idea of putting the Flock cameras in law enforcement that wants Flock cameras in their houses.
In their houses, in their workplaces, and not only that, but the Flock CEOs should have a constant body cam footage all day, every day running. They should never have a moment of privacy. Like, if you want to push this stuff on people, you should have to live the way you tell people to live. It's like with Hassan Piker. Hassan, who says that everybody should be giving away their money and nobody should be rich while living in a mansion and worth millions of dollars. And he's not giving away any of his money. He just thinks you should give away yours.
I think that's a great idea. Do unto others. I think it's fair. I think it's Christian, and I think it's fair. By the way, the police aren't the only ones who have it. Local police, they're the least of the worries. It's the government agencies that are a part of a federal network. That's with a political agenda.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes evil. Small town police people, they're gonna maybe, worst case, they use it to stalk their ex-girlfriends. That's horrible, but it's not a systemic issue. We live in an era where we have gigantic, colossal systemic issues in regard to politics, and now we're giving our government way too much power over individuals,
way too
removing
much
power from those individuals. And that's what's very scary. Between December 2024 and October 2025, the Electronic Frontier Foundation obtained datasets covering about 12 million searches by more than 3,900 agencies.
Dude, the government needs to have so much. This is how we should run the country. The government needs to have much less control over civilians and much more control over corporations than what is happening in the current time. They're letting corporations run rampant, run roughshod over everybody, and meanwhile trying to micromanage civilian life.
19 agencies ran...
I don't want the government telling me what to do, basically, at all. Except for, like, the bare minimums, you know, don't kill, don't steal, right? But besides for that shit, I don't want the government telling me what to do at fucking all.
Searches specifically tied to the No Kings protest, which is fucking insane. More were tied to Hands Off, and more were tied to the 50501 protests. And in some of them, the only log entry that the officers had written down was protest. I hate to break it to you, but as Americans, we have a constitutional right to protest. It's just like one of the things that we do.
It's built in.
No?
We're literally a revolutionary country.
It's like the whole fucking thing, actually. And obviously, you can think that protesters are idiots. You can
Most
disagree
of the time they
with
are.
anybody. It doesn't...
Yeah, most of the time protesters are fucking idiots. And there's definitely a difference between protesting and rioting that actually needs to be discussed in a realistic way. But...
matter. It's the fucking First Amendment, and that is the most important thing. It really...
You should always be able to protest, as long as it's an actually peaceful protest. The second it goes from being a peaceful protest to a quote-unquote mostly peaceful protest is the second you've lost the plot.
It really is, man. I'm home.
Now you deserve to be shut down. Also, though, you shouldn't be able to block roads. We have the right to free travel. That's a constitutional right. If you stand in the road and try to block it off with your little protest, I'm going to hit the gas, not the brakes.
I am homesick. It's like I feel so apathetic right now. It's crazy. I don't want to make this video or any videos, really.
Let's use the flock cameras to document people who are protesting. We don't need to find stolen cars. Let's use it to violate their Fourth and First Amendment rights.
They've been violating Second Amendment rights for the last 30 years with no knocks, shooting dogs and shit. It's a slippery slope. Law enforcement. I love law enforcement. I really do. I think I like to live in a place that I like to live in a society that has laws, but my God, when it becomes political, it gets very scary. There are also more than 80 agencies that ran searches using language targeting Romani people. Hundreds of searches using just literal slurs, often with no crime attached, which seems like a fucking bit. One department in Texas ran an ethnic slur 6 times through the convoy feature to try and find a convoy of an ethnic slur. I don't know what that even means.
What? Wait a minute. Wait a fucking minute. Is that really a slur? Dog, how many words are you gonna take away from us, man? What the fuck? Holy shit. G asterisk SPY is apparently a slur now? What the fuck, dude? There's too many babies in the world, for real.
They were looking for a group of cars traveling together. What? In Texas, deputies queried the network in what was recorded officially as a missing persons case, but was actually an abortion investigation, allegedly. One officer ran a search that had the note, "Had an abortion, search for female." That search reached across 6,800 networks and 83,000 cameras.
What?
Now, they repeatedly denied that the automated license plate reader search was related to enforcing Texas's abortion ban, and Flock Safety themselves called the story false and misleading and clickbait. So really, you can just choose.
Honestly, though, my takes on abortion are realistically that you shouldn't be able to do it unless there's an actual serious medical problem. You should not be unless there's a serious medical problem, or you can prove that rape happened. Those are the only 2 acceptable times for abortion to ever happen. You shouldn't. This is why you have girls who have 50 dudes in their body count, 100 dudes in their body count, and they're everywhere. It's every girl you run into now has slept with the entire town, and the reason for that is because of abortions. Because there's no consequences for being a fucking whore. You know, realistically. You have to have consequences to bad behavior. Otherwise, people will never learn from them. There was an epidemic of, I can't remember what town it was, but it was way back in history, of this one lady killed herself. And everybody gave her so much sympathy and gave her so much attention that people just started killing themselves again and again and again. And it became such a bad epidemic that at one point the leader of the town said, you know what? The next person that does it, we're going to strip you naked and hang you outside of the courthouse to rot, to let your body rot. People stopped doing it. People stopped right then. It stopped immediately. Because when you have consequences for your actions, you will act accordingly. If you are able to go out and have sex with 100 different dudes, and then you can just scoop the fucking life out of you and shoot it out, then there's no consequence for that. It's not like it's a complete mystery why there are not a whole lot of long-term relationships, and there's a whole bunch of girls that go through a quote-unquote hoe phase. By the way, you don't go through a phase. If you start it, you are it just forever. That's just the rule, you know. But this is why we have that, and this is why we have dudes that are going around and doing it too. Is because there's no repercussions for them doing it, because they're girls. They're gonna knock up 20 girls in their lifetime, but 19 of them are gonna get an abortion. You know. You've got to have actual serious consequences for your actions. If abortion was illegal in America, you would see far, far less promiscuity. And you would see a lot less people cheating on their significant other. A lot less.
Who you want to believe here, because we have some data and then we have an opinion on one side. So I don't know, man. Just think what you will, I guess. I hate it, man. I absolutely hate it.
And I really don't believe in this whole thing of men don't have a womb, so they have no say. I really think that that's just an absolutely ridiculous and misandrous point to make. men obviously have a say. We're half of the fucking birth. I mean, without us, there is no kid. Obviously, we fucking should have a say in if kids get to live or die. Like, come on. And there's room for debate. There's room for debate, whatever. But it's extremely telling that Margaret Sanger, the lady who invented abortions, was an extreme eugenicist, a total racist, and buddies with Hitler.
The entire pitch of this company is that we should accept mass surveillance of law-abiding people because a small number of them are criminals. No, go f*** yourself. Go die, okay? Don't take away guns because a small amount of people misuse them. The margin can...
I don't think she invented abortion. I think she popularized it, whatever.
Not dictate the majority. That's not how laws work. That's not how rules work. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Go f*** yourselves.
Yeah.
Or we could do my idea, which I like a lot, and that is that a small number of officers abuse the system, which we acknowledge that. A small number of officers are bad people. So by Flock's own reasoning, I think it'd be completely fair to have all 140,000 users of their system be under permanent warrantless scrutiny with every...
And also anybody involved in the company, any CEO, anybody even working for it in a passive role, every single one of them should be put under 100% all the time, 24/7 surveillance, available to the public forever.
Every single one of their searches logged, published, and reviewed by another agency, but not an independent, verified third-party agency, but just a private company, my company, where I can just spy on them all day long. I think that would be awesome. Luckily, Americans across both sides of the political aisle, including a ton of law enforcement agencies, are not putting up with this total dystopian bullshit.
Yeah,
in upstate New
that's
York,
not
people are
America.
taking electric saws to them. A
Hell
guy
yeah.
in Oakland threw paint on one. Somebody in Ohio rammed one with a TRUCK. That's a
Hell yeah.
truck, dude. A man in Florida sits in a lawn chair all day holding a piece of cardboard on a pole to block the lens. That is the final form of civil disobedience.
Hell
There's
yeah.
a masked bandit on Instagram who goes by No Mark, and in June he went after one across the street from a Taco Bell with a pair of bolt cutters. The post got 210,000 likes, and he's done more than a dozen since, and assumes police are actively looking for him because they probably are.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's vandalism, that's crime. But like, not all crimes are created equal.
Dog, I don't know. I have to disagree with it even being a crime on a fundamental constitutional level. Destroying a flock camera is not a crime in any way. The Second Amendment and the Fourth Amendment both explicitly state this. So no matter what any local municipality or federal law wants to say about it, it's not a crime to destroy these things. It's not.
Right? I do not condone that.
Now, technically, officially, it is a crime, but that's fucking bullshit. And it literally, like, oh my God, our founding fathers would be rolling over in their graves right now.
Officially, but like, you know, if something's unconstitutional, then go f yourself.
Yes.
Why are you enforcing that?
Yes.
In any way? Look at me. How about this shit?
You literally cannot enforce a law that's unconstitutional. I mean, that's the point of the Constitution.
How about that right there? How about that? Do I look like I want to be mass surveilled? No. Go f yourself. And also
Yeah.
go f yourself, Mike Israel, you ugly hack. Bro is
Yeah.
so Palantir coded. People are doing all kinds of crazy shit. I was going to say awesome, but I, once again, can't condone criminal activity on my YouTube channel. People are planting American flags at the scene.
It's not criminal activity to stop an unconstitutional action.
After the crimes are committed, people are 3D printing objects that clip on and block the lens. You should not do that. People are paint bombing them and leaving notes. People are taking lasers to them. By God, these people are crazy. In East Tennessee, a congressional candidate actually shot 4 of them.
Hell
Adam Lee
yeah.
Heimerman, running as an independent in Tennessee's second
Fucking need to vote for that guy.
district, was arrested and charged with 4 counts of felony vandalism. Investigators say he admitted to using a gun on 4 ALPR units between July 14th and July 22nd. He's being held on $40,000 bond. The
What the
comments
fuck?
on all these posts are absolutely fucking hilarious, by the way. They're flooded with people offering fake alibis, joking. I'm assuming they're jokes. I don't know. I would
Yeah.
never shoot one of those, ever. I don't even own a Benelli Super Black Eagle #3 that
That's
loves
sick.
a cheeky 3.5-inch Magnum, and that has blood on it. That's a lot of blood right there. It's not my blood either. The remarkable thing, too, once again, is the bipartisanship of the backlash. There's a 24-year-old independent in rural South Carolina calling it privacy violations. There's traditional conservatives in Houston calling it a violation of personal liberty, which it is objectively. There's progressives in Massachusetts saying,
I firmly believe the government can do things to make life better for people, but a surveillance state is the first step toward a police state.
we've been in a f***ing police state for 30 years. What are you talking about? No government can make anything better. None. They can't.
Yeah.
I'll fucking believe it.
The government is only supposed to be here to protect us from outside problems and like extremely bad actors, like I said, murderers and thieves and rapists. They're not supposed to be here to collect all of our taxes, and if we don't pay our taxes, lock us up in a box. They're not here to put us into endless debt with banks in other countries that realistically we don't even have to pay. What bank in what country is going to actually force us to pay it? Nobody. Cancel the debt. It shouldn't exist.
When I see it, dude, I just can't. There's no. There is hope. There is hope for a brighter future. There's not until everyone who makes up every single part of this country is run by people who get their information from unabashed sources. I have this big problem where I'll meet somebody and they have terrible ideas. Their ideas are fucking terrible. They've never thought about their ideas independently. They're thinking about them after they're being told them from some source of news, whether it's one side,
literally almost quoting it directly,
or the other. I've met people on both sides, and I'm not fence sitting. That's genuine. There's a lot of people who do not ponder. They do not ponder. They placate any form of precociousness and desire to actually seek out the truth in a logical and pragmatic way. They rarely exist. It's a minority. And I feel bad sometimes whenever I meet someone, I'm like, oh, you're just getting your ideas from one really reactive spot. One really like this is scary.
Yeah,
this
you
is
see it a lot.
Terrifying. God.
And there's a lot of people who are just too stupid to think for themselves. That is the truth.
I do believe in a bright future, but I ain't seeing it right now. Anyways, those are three people that agree on probably nothing beyond the fact that Flock sucking fucks dolls. Flock sucks balls is what I meant to say. You can also go to Have I Been
He's right, though, about both of those.
Flocks.com and see whether or not you've been flocked. Let's see. Have I been flocked? Neither my wife nor my vehicle have ever been flocked, according to the website. Thank God. Because there are flock cameras everywhere. There's one at the end of my road, and I love it. There's arguments for destroying.
Dude, and that's really, really bad for his own personal safety, too, because he is a big YouTuber. So if someone could theoretically abuse the footage of him, finding out where he goes, where he comes, and then doing horrible shit.
There's also arguments against destroying them. One argument against is that the city has to replace it and you're going to pay for it. So it's kind of, you're vandalizing yourself in a sense.
Except the city shouldn't be replacing it. It's clear that nobody wants these. It's 100% clear that these are unconstitutional. They should not be replacing them. They should be taking them down.
I don't know, fucking over your own tax bill. But some people would say that the government doesn't want to pay for things that keep breaking. Maybe that could be a way to end the contract. I don't know. Can it get you in trouble? Yes, of course. Also, the government loves paying for shit that's fucking stupid. So they probably will just continue to replace them until the end of time. Until the lobbyists on behalf of Flock, probably the vice president, probably Peter Thiel's blood boy, J.D. Vance. I feel like the cabal's all in on.
Yeah, dude, there's a big contingency of people that love Just Dance Vance, and I am not a fan of him, dude, for real. Like, he's clearly put into the position by Peter Thiel. He owes his entire existence to Peter Thiel. And honestly, anybody involved in this cabinet at this point is kind of a no for me. Like, anybody that puts the interests of another country over the interests of America is automatically a no, no matter what. No matter fucking what. And that's very clear that that's what's happening. We were sold a lie. We were sold a bunch of lies, and all we got was the protection of elite pedophiles and wars for some Middle Eastern country.
On this one, dude, the Biden crime family and the Trump crime family.
Yes.
What's crazy about the Biden...
That's the thing, too, is Biden was absolutely a useless asshole who committed a bunch of crimes and then pardoned a bunch of people with a mass pardon. And you know that Trump is the same motherfucker because he's definitely planning the same pardon for his people. Otherwise, he would have tried to take down Biden with this. He could have taken down a lot of the people like Fauci and Biden's son, who were out there actively committing crimes and just getting away with it. But he wants to keep it open for himself to do, so he's not doing it. That's the literal whole thing there. Dog, at this point, and like, I'm a pretty right-wing guy. I'm a very conservative guy. I agreed with a lot of the stuff that Trump said he was going to do. Pretty much everything. The mass deportations, I agreed with that. The, was trying to make life more affordable. Obviously agreed with that. No foreign wars. I agreed with that. Take down the Epstein class. Fucking release the files. I agreed with that. And yet, he did none of it. He's done none of it, and he's actively actually done the opposite of most of it. And then and it's like Biden didn't release the Epstein files either. Biden's a piece of shit too. But if these are two wings of the same bird, and they're flying in the same direction, and it looks from one side or the other like they might just be their own thing, but the wings are flying on the same creature. Our left-wing and our right-wing politicians are all owned. None of them are serious, and they are all working towards a collective mass government, elite bureaucracy where them and then their family and then their family get to get in, you know? I mean, look at the Kennedy family. How many Kennedys have been in fucking government? Look at the Bush family. How many Bushes have been government? Clintons. Dog. It's getting out of hand. And then now we've got Trump, who's out here doing fucking his son-in-law, who is not, elected or anything, is over there doing our negotiations with Iran and Israel, which we shouldn't even be fucking involved in anyway. Why are we paying foreign countries to go to war with each other? And specifically, why are we helping them go to war with each other? It's so stupid, dude. We should not even be involved. That place of the world has nothing to do with us. And honestly, I could give zero shits whether the Palestinians are free or whether Israel falls or whether Israel stays and the Palestinians are destroyed. I don't care. I don't care. Let them figure it out themselves. I have no stake in the game. Let those fucking Middle Eastern countries figure out their own shit, and let us stop getting involved in a bunch of shit that has nothing to do with us. We're in a national deficit. We're paying trillions of dollars in debt, and for some reason still actively sending money to other countries and then actively fighting their wars for them. It's absolutely foolish.
Biden crime family, which I fully believed was real. By the way, I completely believe that there's an obscene level of corruption in the government.
Oh, yeah.
I always believe that, no matter what, when somebody tells me. I just believe it immediately. Now that the government is just in the control of the other side, there's no prosecution of the Biden crime family. And now there is the Trump crime family, which is way more obvious.
It is way more obvious, to be fair, but that's because the media is not working hand in hand with them to try to obfuscate everything. And Twitter is a little more open now than it was then, although it's still definitely heavily moderated to favor one side of the debate. And I don't think it's the right wing or the left wing, it's the Israel cause. It's heavily monitored to favor the Israel cause and nothing else, which honestly I think probably a lot of things are, to be fair. A state created by the Rothschilds. It's just weird. It's just weird, dude. Like I said, I literally just don't care. I just want to stop being involved with them. I want them to stop being involved with us. And I want this with every country. I don't want to send any money to them. I don't want to send any money to Ukraine. I don't want to send any money to Britain or China or Russia. I don't want to send any jobs over to China. I don't want to import people from India to here to work our jobs for us. I don't want people coming up from Mexico and illegally working on our land. I don't want any of that. None of that, dude. America was built on being a self-sustaining nation that stood on its own. Like that's what we were built on. We were literally non-interventionist for almost our entire existence until World War One, and then we found out that World War One was a huge fucking mistake. We were non-interventionist again, and then we got false flag attacked by Pearl Harbor, which I think Pearl Harbor happened, and I think we were attacked by the Japanese. But we definitely knew about it ahead of time and let it happen so that we would get up the war fervor and actually the American people would finally let the government go to a foreign war that had nothing to do with us. Dude, I don't know.
$2 billion in government contracts have been awarded to companies that are in some way or another connected to Trump's children. And we're in a war that we're not supposed to be in, that has ended 15 times. It is insane. If you're a Republican or a Democrat or whatever the fuck, like this isn't a democratic idea wanting to hold our government accountable. It is an American idea, dude. You can't just
That's the thing. I hate how people want to attack people who criticize Trump or criticize Biden and call them right-wing nuts or left-wing nuts or, oh man, you're not a part of the cause anymore, dog. My cause is America. My cause is motherfucking America. My cause is never Donald Trump and his family. My cause is never Joe Biden and his family. My cause is never Obama and his family. My cause is America, and that's it.
Go in and then take advantage of the system. That's not what you're being voted for. You don't get voted in to do that. That's what all of them do, but that's not what they get voted in to do.
Yeah. And every single one of them come in, they inside trade, whether they're presidents or Congress, they come in, they inside trade, they do break all the rules, they get in no trouble. Look at Randy Fine's dumb fat ass who walked around and was literally caught on camera voting for other senators when that's not supposed to be allowed, and yet got no trouble. And then he got caught literally breaking into people's mailboxes, which is federally illegal, and he still is not getting in any trouble for that. They like to say this, saying nobody's above the law, but clearly that isn't true right now, and clearly something needs to change, and the world is building up to this fever pitch of like, dog, some crazy shit is going to pop off in the next 10 years, and like it's going to go one way or the other, and either the elite people, whatever you want to call them, the Epstein class, are going to get full control over everything, or the people of the world collectively are going to rise up and defeat them finally, or at least push them back into their little hidey holes for the next 100 years, because that's generally how it seems to happen. You'll see it all over, though. People are finally starting to stand up for themselves, and like in Ireland, where people are literally taking to the streets and fighting back. Minnesota now, where there's giant Christian gatherings gathering to try to fucking take their state back. Like, you see it all over the place. This is not a lost cause yet.
I don't know if they know that or not. It should be completely bipartisan to relentlessly investigate transparency and uphold transparency for all elected officials.
And I mean, like, dude, like the fact that I don't know. I don't want to seem like this like weird leftist, because like, again, I'm very right wing, but the whole Trump thing where he like sued the IRS and now they're not allowed to look into his money at all, and like, dude, his family just getting exponentially richer while he's in office, like all this stuff. And they'll say, yeah, well, they tried to take him down, so he's going to need the money to protect himself when he gets out of office again. Or, now hear me out, he could just not be doing fucked up shit. You know? Or he could just stop doing fucked up shit. The truth is, he was probably fucking doing shit he shouldn't have been doing during his first presidency, and being corrupt and being an asshole, just like every president before him and after him. Not every president, but every president before, or I mean, every president after JFK. So every president after JFK before Donald Trump have been doing fucked up, corrupt shit. And Donald Trump was just the first one to actually get called out on it. And that was just a political attack to try to take down their political enemy. It had nothing to do with the government wanting to hold other government officials responsible. It was purely vindictive. And maybe, this is a conspiracy brain coming out, maybe that was all a big deep state plot so that they could maintain this air of, well, you shouldn't ever take any politician to court or charge them with any crime or try to, because it's vindictive and it's just political warfare, when I don't know, I don't see it that way at all. Now, the Donald Trump case was, I don't think that they did it, like, it wasn't good. his original criminal case that they tried to do him with, where they were just like, here, we'll put you on trial, and then we'll ask the jury to tell us what crimes they think you committed. Like, that's obviously fucked up. That's obviously not American. But if we were to actually have held presidents accountable, I think that every president for the last, like, 30 years would be in jail. Like, every single one of them. Left wing and right wing.
How the is that like, oh no, it's a Biden crime thing. They still control the FBI, probably. No, they don't.
No.
They don't.
No.
They don't. The whole government is controlled by one side right now.
Yeah.
And they're going to lose control because they're f***ing it up.
They are. They are. And I was so hyped for the Republican supermajority. I was. And then they did literally nothing. They got everything they ever said. Oh, if we get here, we're going to be winning, dude. If we get here, then, oh yeah. And now their whole thing is, well, we can't let the Democrats take charge again because then it'll be fucked up. It's like, dog, you haven't done anything. You haven't done your fucking job. Because if a Democrat was in office right now, if Democrats had the supermajority, they would have passed 100 fucking laws and locked half of their political enemies up. And you guys aren't fucking doing dick. So, like, don't give me this whole fear-mongering thing of, oh, if the Democrats take charge, we're gonna get fucked up. You guys are doing the same fucking thing. You're doing nothing, though. Jesus.
They're fucking it up bad. Have you seen the cost of gas? Have you seen the cost of diesel? And now we have shit like this, just cameras fucking watching us all the time.
Yes.
What is the expectation here? You do know that this is an insane country, a melting pot of a lot of really crazy fucking people. Something's gonna give eventually, dude. Not to mention the
melting pot thing, by the way, was something that was invented by somebody who had never been to America in their entire life. And they called America the melting pot of the world, which, by the way, at that time, America was 92% white. 92% white, but he called it the melting pot of the world because he was trying to push an ideology.
You know, satanic cabal of pedophiles running everything and so on and so forth. And the Epstein stuff still hasn't come out and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
All this being said, pushback is kind of working in some cities. Some cities are canceling their contracts with Flock. Fort Collins, Eugene, Madison, Knoxville, Syracuse, Grimtart. That's a Sour Boys city. It's not real. Denver declined to reauthorize. Austin, Texas, contract got killed after an organizing campaign. And Flock even responded to the volunteer-run map by sending them a cease and desist letter, which is so fucking bad faith, man. Here's a legal threat to make me look more legitimate. There's always more, though. If you see a cop wearing a body camera, it's probably from a company called Axon Enterprises. I'm sure you've seen body cameras. They're pretty cool, right?
I think body cameras have done more damage to the anti-police movement than anything, because you see, there are definitely some fucked up instances of police doing shit that's really bad, but you see a lot of the time the kind of dumb idiot losers they have to deal with.
Transparency from law enforcement, I feel like that makes sense, you know?
Go home. Go. Hey, get back.
Axon Enterprise made a strategic minority investment in Flock Safety back in 2020 as a part of a commercial partnership to integrate automated license plate reading technology with police digital evidence systems, aka body cameras. Unfortunately, their partnership is dead. Axon accused Flock of coercive behavior, charging excessive integration fees and pressuring departments into packages that they did not need. Axon's CEO said that he was publicly embarrassed to have recommended them to police chiefs.
Oh my God.
Axon went on to build their own license plate readers. Same exact technology, now they're direct competitors. So not the good guy by any means.
Nope.
They were for about a minute there. So they partnered with them to see if they could get the data, and then Flock was too evil, so they decided to make their own evil version that's maybe less evil and not very evil. Body cameras, by the way,
It's still evil.
very different than Flock cameras. They do not reduce crime, and they're never supposed to reduce crime. They're an oversight tool pointed at officers to hold officers accountable.
Except sometimes they just manage to magically turn off.
Accountability and transparency.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And now that company that is built on accountability and transparency and has made a ton of money off of it is now starting a surveillance startup.
Yeah.
Man, come on. Anyways.
I legitimately believe that if you run a mass surveillance company, if you're even trying to push the idea, then as punishment, you should be equipped with a body cam that runs a 100, like a 24/7 live camera footage of you. That's a great video. I loved Oompaville. No, I think that, and with the police thing, you know, it's like, I know this is really tied into the whole police thing, and I support a lot of police officers, really, I do. I I think that obviously there are bad police officers out there, but they have to deal with so much crazy shit every day. So many absolute imbecile troglodytes that shouldn't be even out in the world running around. But because of our empathy, we've allowed a bunch of maniacs to run roughshod over us. So, like, there are. And then these police officers deal with the same guy 20 times in a row because some activist judge keeps putting them back on the street. These cops see fucked up shit all day, every day, and deal with idiots constantly. So I could see how a cop could make a mistake and do something overly aggressive or considered bad, you know, but at the same time, I don't think I could realistically hold it against the police officer most of the time, you know? That's where I'm at. We need to stop flock cameras, though, and all kinds of them. Axon cameras, all of them. We need to get way, way far away from this surveillance state. You can't have a high-trust society if your government doesn't even trust you to drive down the street.